Hey everybody, how y'all doing tonight? Just wanted to come on here and give some of my thoughts on what's going on with the Idaho 4 murder case and Bryan Kohberger. So much conversation, so many things being talked about, and I just want to go back to the beginning. I think we kind of getting away a little bit from the focus of the case and what's being discussed. There's been a lot of motions out there. This motion for the prosecutor to share what would be considered evidence that the defense needs. That's been just a lot of discussion going on. I was watching something earlier today, and they were saying that someone else is coming out about Bryan Kohberger. This is something from the past, so they didn't provide a lot of details. There's just been a lot of discussion about this case, a lot of heated discussion, a lot of people already making a decision before the case has even been presented to a jury. A jury hasn't even been selected, and people are deciding guilty or not guilty, which is really wild because there's been no evidence put on. There's been no testimony, no witnesses. We really don't know yet. So I want to go back to the beginning because I think it's important that we don't move too far away from some of the things before a lot of salaciousness have come into play, a lot of opinions, just a lot of trashing in the media about Bryan Kohberger, some of the witnesses, some of the victims. So let's just go back to the beginning. So on my Hidden Horror Facebook page, I shared an article. The article was from the Daily Mail, and I'm going to go through that a little bit and read it. And this is an article that was posted back on January 2nd, 2023, just kind of detailing when Bryan Kohberger was initially arrested, right? These things I don't want to move too far away from because there has not been a trial. There has not even been jury selection yet. That's to come in the coming week. But we have people already deciding guilt and innocence. So let's go back to the beginning. Let's see if we can glean from anything we've already seen in the news. Okay, so let's get started. Let's go. So this is the title of the article. It's pretty long. Was Idaho suspect planning the perfect murder? Profiler claims criminology PhD student charged in the quadruple slaying was well aware of his dark nature and homicidal ideation, but academic arrogance was his downfall. After police charged a criminology grad student with the murder of four University of Idaho students, the suspect's choice of academic field is raising questions about whether his studies were part of a twisted criminal fantasy. Bryan Christopher Kohberger, 28, who was arrested early Friday, has a master's degree in criminal justice and was pursuing a PhD in criminology at nearby Washington State University at the time of the murder. I suspect that Kohberger was well aware of his dark nature and homicidal ideation and endeavored to discover more about himself through his studies, said Enzo Yaksik, a criminal profiler and founder of the Atypical Homicide Research Group in Boston, in an email to dailymail.com. But pursuing an advanced degree to become a better murderer is a foolhardy exercise, he added, as nothing more is learned about such tactics and strategies that can be found on a popular podcast or true crime book. If Kohberger is an aspiring serial murderer who desired to commit the perfect murder, he quickly learned what many have discovered in the modern age. It is far more difficult to get away with serial killing today than when Ted Bundy was active. Okay, so something that they share is at the time Brian had did a research study, or he was doing a research study, and he wanted participants, and he wanted people to answer questions specifically that involved something that they did criminally. So I'm going to read this research participation survey that he was doing. Hello, my name is Brian, and I am inviting you to participate in a research project that seeks to understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision making when committing a crime. In particular, this study seeks to understand the story behind your most recent criminal offense with an emphasis on your thoughts and feelings throughout your experience. In the event that your most recent offense was not one that led to a conviction, you may still participate. Additional surveys are included after the open ended section as to best understand your unique traits. The study should take about 15 to 20 minutes to fully complete. Your identity and all answers provided are completely confidential, and the link to the survey is also an anonymous link. This research has been approved by the DeSales University IRB. Participants must be 18 years of age and older. If you opt to participate, you may terminate participation at any time and for any reason. If you have questions about this research, you may contact the research team via, and they provided an email, student investigator Bryan Kohberger at, and then they provided an email. Okay, so this was something that Bryan was doing on Reddit. He was soliciting criminals, either that had a conviction or were not convicted, to answer questions about their feelings and emotions as they were going through the process of committing the crime. So, how do you feel at this point? When you were doing this, how did you feel next? What were your emotions? Um, I don't know the questions to the survey, but I'm just giving examples of what those questions could possibly be given the person is committing some type of criminal act. So I guess he's trying to solicit their thoughts and just have a better understanding of how they were feeling when they were committing the crime. Okay, let's keep going in the article. Just 5 months before the murders, Koberger carried out an anonymous survey of criminal offenders as part of his study, probing their thoughts and feelings and tactics in carrying out their crimes. I suspect we'll find out how he was becoming satiated for a period of time, learning from these criminals. But once that wasn't doing it anymore, he took it from fantasy to real life, said former FBI agent Jonathan Gilliam, in a phone interview with DailyMail.com. In quotation marks, quite often a person evolves over time, and as their desires evolve, the only way they can get those things satiated evolves too, added Gilliam. Every step of the way, he probably became a little bit more odd and a little bit more deviant. Last spring, Kohlberger completed a master's in criminal studies at DeSales University in Pennsylvania where, according to the Daily Beast, he studied under famed forensic psychologist Catherine Ramplin, whose books include How to Catch a Killer and The Mind of a Murderer. While he was at DeSales, Kohberger took to Reddit in May with a post seeking criminals to complete his survey about how they selected their targets and carried out offenses. Okay, so I read the survey. I read a lot of that already. So let's go now. Yasik noted that the questions in Kohberger's survey of criminal offenders seem focused on crowdsourcing the best ways to plan for and get away with crime. This line of questioning hints at an unsophisticated offender who was not confident in his own abilities, said Yasik, the author of Killer Data, Modern Perspectives on Serial Murder. At the time of the murders, Kohberger was in the first semester of his PhD program at Washington State, and Yasik speculated the arrogance inherent to being an academic may have contributed to his arrest. It's always been a myth that uber intelligent serial murderers are able to avoid all obstacles and remain one step ahead of the police, the profiler added. This case perfectly encapsulates how even someone with a graduate degree is no better able to get away with murder than a common thug. Kohberger was apprehended at his family's home in Pennsylvania nearly 7 weeks after the November 13th slayings of Ethan Chapin, Zana Kernodle, Madison Mosley, and Gaylee Conclave in Moscow, Idaho. The four college students were all stabbed to death in an off campus house, likely as they slept after they returned home late from a Saturday night out. Police reportedly tied Kohberger to the crime through DNA. Though he has no criminal record that would put his DNA on file, investigators were able to match genetic evidence to a family member of the suspect using genealogy databases, CNN reported, citing a source. Gilliam, the former FBI agent, said the details that have emerged of Kohberger's life led him to believe that the suspected killer had developed a fixation on dominating others that evolved over time. After struggling with weight issues, Kohberger reportedly became an extremely strict vegan to the point he insisted his family toss out any pots that had previously been used to cook meat. A high school classmate, Thomas Arndt, described Kohberger as a bully who would happily note his friends' flaws and insecurities in order to distract from his own weight struggle. He did that to me all the time, Thomas told the Daily Beast. He would go after my intelligence. He would basically insinuate that I'm kind of slow witted and that I'm forgetful and that I lack the intelligence to be his friend. Thomas finally cut off the friendship after the continuous bullying. He noted that Kohberger's father, a maintenance worker, and mother, a substitute teacher, were genuinely kind people. I have a feeling there was something wrong when he was young, said Gilliam, the former FBI agent. He was a heavy set kid, and then he was a bully and turned himself into an extreme vegan and a very dominant personality, he said. You do start to see a gradual increase in violent behavior and particularly dominance over other people. SWAT teams descended on a sleepy residential community in Pennsylvania in the early hours of Friday morning, where they arrested Idaho murder suspect Bryan Kohberger more than a month after four university students were slain in their bed. Kohberger, 28, was taken into custody by the Pennsylvania State Police at a home in Albrightsville, a small town in the heart of the Poconos Mountains, more than 2,000 miles from where the gruesome killings took place on November 13th. Lawton, Latah County Prosecutor Bill Thompson said investigators believe Kohberger broke into the student's home with the intent to commit murder. Police say DNA evidence links Kohberger to the scene. Friday's arrest is the first major break in the case, with Kohberger asking if anyone else was arrested when he was taken into custody. An extradition hearing is scheduled for Tuesday. Kohberger is a registered libertarian, although does not appear to have had any active social media profiles at the time of his arrest. A relative told the New York Post Kohberger is OCD about his eating habits and forced his family to buy new pots that had never been used to cook meat. It was above and beyond being vegan. His aunt and uncle had to buy new pots and pans because he would not eat from anything that had ever had meat cooked in them. He seemed very OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, the woman said. During a press conference on Friday, authorities confirmed that a white Hyundai Elantra was discovered in the search, with sources saying it was towed from outside Kohberger's home. Law enforcement sources told CNN that his DNA was discovered at the scene of the crime, with officers managing to track down who owned the car seen in the area of the slaying. However, Kohberger had no prior arrests according to public records, so it is unclear how officials got hold of his DNA. Authorities then discovered that he had left the area and traveled to Pennsylvania, where an FBI surveillance team had been tracking the 6 foot tall man. He was kept under surveillance, with the FBI watching him for 4 days, while investigators from Moscow police and Idaho State Police worked to get an arrest warrant. Authorities are still appealing for anyone with information on Kohberger or the quadruple murders to get in touch. Moscow Chief of Police James Fry refused to rule out that the killer had an accomplice, adding, "We have an individual in custody who committed these horrible crimes." Details of the killings and the motive for them are yet to be released, with law enforcement saying a sealed arrest affidavit will be released once Kohberger is extradited back to Idaho. He is currently in custody at Monroe County Jail in Pennsylvania until a hearing on January the 3rd. There is no set time scale for how long his extradition from Pennsylvania to Idaho might take. If Kohberger doesn't contest, it'll happen relatively quickly. So I want to go over, they have like a little nice timeline. So let's just go over the timeline. It shouldn't take too long. Okay, Sunday, November 13th, 2022. Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogan, Zaina Conerto, and Ethan Chapman were stabbed to death at their home in Moscow, Idaho, in the early hours of the morning. sometime between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. Earlier that evening, Morgan and Goncalves were captured on a Twitch live stream close to a food truck while waiting for an order of pasta carbonara. A sorority driving service drove the young women home around 1:56 a.m. Connerto and her boyfriend Chapman had returned from the Sigma Chi frat house around 11 minutes earlier. Two other female roommates who survived the attack went to bed around 1 a.m. and didn't wake up until the next morning. Goncalves called her ex-boyfriend Jack Dufour 7 times between 2:26 and 2:44. Her sister Olivia said he was quickly cleared as a suspect. A 911 call was made at 11:58 a.m. that morning. At 2 p.m., students were told of the murders by the University of Idaho, with staffers urging them to shelter in place. Monday, November 14, 2022. Moscow Mayor Art Beatty said the killings were a crime of passion, only to later backtrack. He said that theory was one of several under consideration. Tuesday, November 15, 2022. Moscow police called the killings an isolated, targeted attack and added that there was no imminent threat to the community at large. But angry locals, as well as the four victims' families, slammed what they described as contradictory statements from investigators. Wednesday, November 16, 2022. Moscow Police Department Chief James Fry disclosed the fact that two roommates had at home had survived. He said there were no signs of forced injury, but refused to say who had made the 911 call and why it had been made an estimated 8 hours later. Fry angered locals by backtracking on an earlier claim there was no danger to the wider community. He warned them to please stay vigilant. Thursday, November 17, 2022. The killings are officially ruled homicides by stabbings by Latah County Coroner Kathy Mather. She said all four victims were likely attacked as they slept and that each had multiple stab wounds. Distressingly, some victims were found to have defensive wounds, suggesting they'd woken up while being attacked, but there were no signs of assault. Sunday, November 20th, DailyMail.com exclusively reveals a local dog was skinned and filleted 3 weeks before the killing, sparking fears of a connection. Cops later insisted this was not the case. They added that the Goncalves dog was home at the time of the slaying. November 22, November 22nd, 2022. Cops admitted Goncalves had been followed around a supermarket around a month before the killings, but said they were unable to verify claims she had a stalker. November 30th, 2022. Kaylee Goncalves' father, Steve, said his daughter and friend Maddie Morgan had been sleeping in the same bed when they were stabbed. Latah County Prosecutor Bill Latah claimed one of the victims was undoubtedly targeted. Hours later, Moscow Police Department contradicted that claim, only to admit that they did consider the crime a targeted one the following day. 6 people are ruled out as suspects. A man seen close to Goncalves and Morgan at the food truck, the driver who took them home, Goncalves' ex-boyfriend, the surviving roommate, and another student who moved out of the property several months earlier. December 5th, 2022. Goncalves' dad, Steve, slammed cops' absurd approach to the case, claiming Moscow Police Department had been too quick to clear potential suspects and rule out links to other cases. December 7th, 2022. Cops make their first appeal for a white 2011 to 2013 Honda Elantra spotted at the crime scene around the time of the murder. A white Honda Elantra is said to have been towed from suspect Bryan Kohberger's home in Scranton, Pennsylvania on December 30th after he was arrested. December 12, 2022, Steve Goncalves reveals Kaylee had big, open gouges as a result of the deadly attack. He branded cops cowards for not sharing more information and said his daughter's wounds were more severe than Maddie's. December 18, 2022. New footage emerges showing Goncalves and Morgan hours before their killings walking through downtown while discussing a man named Adam. Goncalves' family lawyer later clarified that the Adam in question is a bartender. December 27, 2022. More leaked footage shows Goncalves and Morgan inside the corner club bar in Moscow shortly before returning home. December 30th, 2022, cops announced they made an arrest in connection with the killings in Scranton, Pennsylvania. The suspect is named as University of Washington criminology PhD student Bryan Christopher Kohberger. Kohberger was nabbed at his home by SWAT teams and arraigned the same morning. Okay, everybody. That was a long read. So let's talk about some things that are going on with the case. Let's kind of discuss from the beginning. If you listen to all that, we're able to get through it. Thank you, firstly, thank you. But as you can see, a lot of things in the beginning from what law enforcement informed us, it has changed. The original description of the Honda Elantra was a 2011 to 2013. That's not Kohlberger's year, but it could be similar, right? So let's talk about a few things that from just going back to the beginning and now how things have changed. Initially, in the beginning, the police felt that it was a targeted attack. They always felt that one of the females in the house had a stalker and that she was targeted, although there were six people in the house at the time. The two unharmed roommates, Ethan and Zana, the couple, and then you have Kaylee and Maddie, the best friend. So out of the six people in the house, five of them, really four of them lived there, but four of them they were unalive, right? So the police initially felt that it was targeted, that one of the girls may have had a stalker. Now, from just reading that, we already know that one of the girls allegedly had a possible stalker, somebody that was following her. She felt uncomfortable when she was out. She would have her friends kind of help her feel safe, more comfortable, and kind of protect her, as any woman should, right? So from the beginning, this was someone that she did not know, but she felt that there was a presence that was watching her. Now, from the beginning, we know that the house was set up where there were not a lot of window coverings. So if you were driving by, and especially in dark hours where you have lights on, people can see directly into your house. They can see what you're doing. They can see all of your movements. And that's why in some of my other videos, I talk a little bit about the stalking, the harassment, voyeurism, somebody seeing you, seeing a glimpse of you, and now they become a stalker. They've been pulled in that moment, and now they're driving by your house. They peg your car to see what you're driving, now they're following you. If you go to the grocery store, they're at the grocery store. If you go to work, now they see where you work. That's how it works. So you have to be very, very careful and mindful when you're doing certain things to make sure that you have some type of window covering, shades, blinds, curtains, something that when it gets dark and you have to turn a light on, you're not showing the whole view of the inside of your house just by somebody walking past or driving past. That's what they're going to see. I'm not saying that she did have a stalker, that this was committed by a stalker type person. That is what the police initially felt. But if that is the case, why would someone go into a home with all of these roommates? If you were targeting a specific person, why would you break into the home and you see all of these vehicles parked outside? Wouldn't it have been easier to target a person when they're away from the property? Because females, they were having parties, they were having friends over. There are six people in the home at that time. That's why I don't necessarily believe it was a stalker, only because I feel that whoever came to the property, they were familiar and familiar enough to be comfortable with the police presence. Any type of campus or off campus housing are going to have the police on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday night. The police are going to be present. They're going to park their cars. They may be walking on foot. They may have undercover police officers. They may be riding on bikes. They may be driving through, especially this area where the fraternities and the sororities are placed. You have hundreds of students out enjoying themselves, partying, having fun, throwing a party, going to a party. Constant traffic. The police are going to be there, whether they're undercover, they're in an unmarked car, whether they're walking the beat, whether they're pulling people over. They have to because there's a big alcohol presence and drug presence in areas like this. So the police have to make an effort to stop people, to test them, to make sure that they're safely driving. There's no drunk driving. There's no open containers. They're not students walking with alcohol, open alcohol. So all of that, I just can't see someone randomly going into an area with police everywhere and wanting to commit a crime like this. It just seems like it would be more on the common sense side, that it would be someone that would be able to blend in, that would appear to be a student, or would be able to blend in and fit in like a student. Maybe within that age bracket of a college student. So if their presence is there, they're not looking like an older adult, a more mature adult. Let's say over 30 years old. I don't see an older person coming in. But it did happen during nighttime, so you're not seeing the features of a person. If somebody was walking around, maybe they would not even be noticed as much. But coming into that house is completely open. There's no landscaping in the front. So if you're walking up to that house, you're going to be seen. And why would you be picking a house with so many cars parked in front of that risk that there could be two, three, four, five, six people in the house? It's a three-story house. You have to anticipate that there may be a lot of people in that house. And if you're doing it in the hours at night, between, say, after 1 a.m. and between 5 a.m., more than likely the people are going to be home. It's not like you're doing a crime and the risk is much lower because all the cars are going. It doesn't appear that anybody's there. Maybe everyone is out. No, you're doing it at a time, at an hour where people are more than likely at home, possibly in the bed because they weren't having a party that night. It appears that all of the roommates, all of them went out to different things. The couple, they were together. Haley and Maddie, they were together. And then I'm not exactly sure where the two unharmed roommates were, but according to reports, they were back home by 1 a.m. So all of the students appear to be out, and that's the other scary thing. They were having a lot of parties, and I saw some of the videos, so I know they were having parties. Did they give out the code to the door so someone could be lying in wait already in the house, already on the second floor, already on the third floor? We just don't know. But a lot of people will share a code to the door, or they had the sliding doors, right? You literally, if you can make it to the second floor, I believe there was a ladder on the side of the rear of the house, like the side. You can lean the ladder up against the house and climb up and go right on. You're on the third floor. You can check that sliding door where the balcony was, where you could sit outside. Or you could check the sliding door in the rear that's right off the kitchen and walk right in. Or if you were at a prior party and you're a criminal, you may be thinking ahead. You just unlock the windows. You go to the bathroom, unlock the bathroom window. You go into the living room, unlock the living room window. And when you're ready to break in and commit a crime, you just go lift up the window. You're in the house in 15 seconds. People are diabolical. We don't know. Now, to me, it's more likely if you're not a roommate, you're going to enter in that house through the back because the front was so visible. It was visible. Anybody's walking up and you're not a roommate and you're going into this house and it's not a party between, I don't know, 1 and 3, you might be noticed. Maybe not. Maybe not because it was dark. But the police were right at the field. You could literally see the back of the house, the lights when there were lights on. You could see it in the camera footage from the police wearing the camera on. You could literally see it that the lights were on at the house. And I don't know if the killer or killers waited for those lights to go out, and maybe that was an indicator that the people went to sleep. Oh, there are no more lights on, so they're said now it's safe to go in now. Because when people are asleep or resting, they may not hear you entering the house. They may not hear initially if there's a struggle on the second floor and the way the house is built, right? How awkward it is, how they added the additions. Again, if something's happening on the third floor, if somebody's on the third floor, the people on the first floor may not hear it. Or if you're on the first floor, you may not hear what's happening on the third floor. And everybody came home at a different time. The two unharmed roommates, 1 a.m. They're saying that Ethan and Zayna, they came in about 15 minutes prior to Kaylee and Maddie. If Kaylee and Maddie got there at 1:56 a.m., that would mean that Ethan and Zayna got there about 1:41 a.m. Now, how they got their time, I don't know. I know there could possibly be a camera that's across the street and maybe picking up the activity, but that also means that if that is the case, why didn't the camera pick up the intruder if they came in from the front? Because guess what? They probably didn't come in from the front. They probably came in from the rear sliding door. And a lot of those sliding doors, they're not really that safe. A lot of people will wedge an object to keep the door from just being pulled open because that lock mechanism, it's not durable. It gets old. It breaks. It won't lock the door anymore. So a lot of people will wedge a piece of wood, a block, or something to just keep it shut. But let's just say, for argument's sake, that the killer or killers did use the rear door because you have to think they want the least amount of chance of getting caught, getting being seen and getting caught. And because there was no party, there was no activity going on where a lot of different people would have a reason to be there, people are going to want to know, well, who are you if you're on the scene? And I'm assuming it's a male. And as I said in past videos, I think that it was a male or males that committed the murder. And the reason I feel that is because for a person to have the strength to unalive 4 people, they'd have to be strong, especially unaliving Ethan, because he was a physically built up man, tall, strong, looked to be very healthy, and he probably put up a fight. Now, from what we know, Zaina ordered food and it was delivered, and allegedly the food was supposed to be handed to her. So we do know at that time that she was alive at 4:05 a.m. when the delivery for the food came to the property. We do know that. Now, we don't know about Ethan, assuming that they were together in the same room. They were found in the same room together. So, just using common sense, I would think that they both were alive at the same time at 4:05 a.m. when the food was delivered, and that food was accepted, and then I believe taken back to the room on the second floor, and that's where they ate the food. And that's why it's so important about autopsy for all of the victims. And I would say a toxicology screen as well. Because again, I've talked about this in the past. The toxicology screen is going to identify any substances in the body. That could be medications, that could be drugs. The toxicology screen could answer some questions, provide some information. Now, for the autopsy, we would be wanting to get an idea if food was digested. Kaylee and Maddie, they got food from the food truck, so we would want to know were they able to eat that food, and if so, would that help in determining the time of death because they're looking at digestion as well as with Zayna and Ethan. The food was delivered at 4:05 a.m. Did they eat the food? How far did the food digest in their system? Can that help with giving the time of death? The biggest problem about that, and I had a major reaction to the coroner because she admittedly, purposely, did not come to the crime scene in her own words from 5 to 5.5 hours. And I guess in her mind, that was to give the investigators time to go through the scene, to look for evidence, maybe to take pictures, maybe to take video. I'm not sure, but the time of death can really be fluctuating because those bodies would have been set out possibly at least 12 hours. 12 hours. We don't have the exact, perfect, precise time of death, but there is some estimations going because of the delivery for Zainab. And also, what I have found very concerning is at 2:52 a.m., both Kaylee and Maddie, which were on the third floor, remember there's two bedrooms on the first floor, two bedrooms on the second floor, and two bedrooms on the third floor. Kaylee and Maddie were found to be in the same bedroom. However, their phones, neither one of them used their phones after 2:52 a.m. This is more than 1 hour prior to Zane and Ethan's food delivery or Zayna's food delivery. Two people not using the phone any longer, that's concerning. At the same time, it almost feels like the killer or killers were already in the house. They had already unalived Katie and Maddie. That's what it feels like. If Zaina and Ethan arrived home 15 minutes prior to Kaylee and Maddie, that means that Zaina and Ethan were on the second floor. Kaylee and Maddie would have had to enter the house, whether it be from the front from the first floor or the rear from the second floor, which we know pretty much it was from the front because we have the camera that's across from the 1122 King Road house showing that they got out of the car and went inside the house. And I'm sure they would have seen a light come on the third floor. But they went to the third floor, but they would have had to go through the path of the second floor and past Ethan and Zaina's bedroom. So for Zaina to make the order at 4:05 a.m., well, have the food delivered at 4:05 a.m., Zaina was alive. But was Kaylee and Maddie alive? They came in. They came in after Zaina and Ethan, and they stopped using their phone at 2:52 a.m. So it appears at 1 a.m. the two unharmed roommates were already in the house. Then Zaina and Ethan, they come in the house about 1:41 a.m. 15 minutes later, Kaylee and Maddie come into the house. They have to pass the room that Zaina and Ethan are in on the second floor in order to get to the third floor. So Zaina and Ethan, they appear to be alive at the time because of the order, which was delivered at 4:05 a.m. And we know the two unharmed roommates were alive. They go to the third floor. And sometime after that 1:56 a.m. and up to 2:52 a.m., they're using social media up until 2:52 a.m. where it all stopped. Now, what I find interesting and what I also read was there were constant multiple calls to one person who did not answer. So was there something going on? Was there a conversation being had? Was there a concern? Was there a problem? And that's why the multiple calls were being made? We don't know. We will never know unless the police have text messages that have not been disclosed to the public, maybe stating something, maybe stating an issue, because why the multiple calls? And then abruptly at 2:52 a.m., there's no more activity on Kaylee and Maddie's phone. You have to consider that. What happened between that? Even what happened after 2:52 a.m. to 4:05 a.m. when the food was delivered. Was there now the killer or killers coming from the third floor down to the second floor? Or were they already in the house? I would feel almost that they were already in the house because Kaylee and Maddie, when they came home, Zena and Ethan were already home. They were already there 15 minutes prior. So did the killer or killers just come into the house? Did they come into the house after the food delivery? Or were they already in the house? Apparently, we would have probably seen lights on up until at least 2:52 a.m. on the third floor. And then probably lights on up to 4:05 a.m. at least on the second floor for Zaina and Ethan. So was the killer or killers already in the house? Or did they enter the house after the food delivery? Because from what the prosecutor is asserting, that these murders happened within an 8-minute period. 8 minutes by the hand of one person, two people, two or more people. We have to think about it logically. We just can't accept what somebody's idea is. Four people unalive in a period of 8 minutes with a, they haven't said that it was only a knife, but it has been said that all of them received stabbing. So was it only a knife? We don't know. We don't know, right? But it's something to consider. That's a short window of time. We don't see from what has been reported and what's out there, we don't see any blood evidence, for example, outside of the house. We're going to have a lot of fingerprints because they were having parties, right? We know that. But we don't see any blood evidence outside of the house. We don't see bloody clothes. We don't see shoe impressions that would have blood in them. We don't see fingerprints in blood. Were the killers wearing gloves? Because one thing I know, there was a glove found outside of the house. Did the prosecutor actually get DNA ran on that? Because you have these glands in your hands and your hands will sweat. So that's your perspiration, your DNA. Did they take that and send that off to the lab? Whose DNA is on those gloves? Or gloves, with one glove found outside. What about the other two male DNA profiles that was found in the house? There were a total of three other male DNA profiles. So did the police prosecutor, did they try to figure out who those profiles belong to, especially with the glove? Because there's going to be skin cells inside the glove, unless they had some gloves on under that, like maybe some plastic gloves on and then that glove. I don't know, but I'm just thinking. I think we need to look at everything because is it possible that one person committed all of these acts? And what I find interesting, if it's true, they said that Bryan Kohberger, at the time of the arrest, asked the question, was there anyone else arrested? You have to think about that, right? Is he already thinking of, did my accomplice get arrested too? Did my accomplice also get arrested? You don't know if that's a true statement, because it does not appear that Bryan Kohberger is going to be forthcoming with any statements, any comments. He's not going to use his voice because remember, in the POA, in the affidavit, one thing that the roommate said that was on the second floor was she heard a male's voice say, I am here to help you. So if you're possibly the killer, and I'm not saying that he is, I'm not, I'm just saying if we're giving a scenario, why would you want to use your voice and that person is going to hear your voice? Everything you say, this is a high profile case. Any emotion, um, any emitting of emotions, your voice, they're going to play that. They're going to use that clip. They're going to take whatever pictures they can find and put that out there. So, do you really want that person hearing your voice? This is why, and I don't want to be negative, but eyewitness testimony, it is not reliable. You can be so traumatized, you can actually see something and it's not accurate. Your memory is not going to be accurate because you're really stressed. You've had a stressful moment. You've had a difficult experience, and your memory you can't rely on it. And this is why I'm saying you don't really want eyewitness testimony because it's not going to be accurate. It's really not. That's why that description that was in the affidavit I found to be um, I don't want to say extremely odd, but to me it was odd. To me, a young person does not speak in the way that it was written. It was something like this person was walking and they were ironclad in black. I don't know any young person that speaks like that. That would seem to me to be an older male, maybe somebody with police experience, an investigator, somebody much, much older, like at least 50. I don't know any young people that talk like that. I think a young person would say, I saw a male walking past me. He was approximately, 5'10", and he was wearing black. The ironclad black. I never believed the witness said that. Not a female witness in the 20-year range. And I'm much older than 20, so I wouldn't even speak like that. To me, that's law enforcement term. So I'm hoping that the two witnesses, I know they don't want to testify. That's what's been put out to the media, to the news. but I'm hoping that they will testify so we can hear for ourselves their words, how they describe what happened, what was happening at the time in their own words. Not that it's not going to cost them to be cross examined, but in all honesty, they are our only two witnesses. They can only express their experience. And if their experience was at 1 a.m. when I arrived home, I went to bed, I rested, I went to sleep, I locked my door, I had my headphones on, I was listening to my music, and I was out. Or I could have even been drinking possibly, and I was tired. So when I went to sleep, I was in a deeper sleep because I had alcohol or beverage or beer or whatever. Whatever their experience is, I feel that it's very important for them to tell their own experience, not what the affidavit says, especially the roommate on the second floor, because hear, we need to hear several things, but we need to hear when she opened the door the first time, was she asleep and she was awoke? And what what woke her up? Was there a bang? Something falling? Something crashing? Was there a scream? Was there crying? Because if we have to talk about it, it could easily be expressed that due to trying to word it in a way that's respectful, due to the violence that was happening on both the second and the third floor, you would very much hear a person fighting for their life. I can experience screams that are inaudible, in so much pain, I can't even hear myself scream. I can't hear it. It's inaudible to me. That is how much pain I was in. I couldn't even hear myself scream. I cannot imagine being on the same floor around just 15, 20 feet from someone that is being unalived. Two people in one room with one, two, or possibly more killers. And one of the killers have a knife. And what it would be to be stabbed, I would think it would be a scream that would almost be just like when I was getting smashed by a car. I could not hear myself screaming. It was almost unreal. It was like something in my body. I could not feel the pain. I still wanted to walk. I thought I could walk. I had to literally be picked up off the ground because my leg, it was like I did not have any movement, no motion, no connection to my body. But my mind wanted to get up and say, I can walk. I can walk back to the car. I just collapsed. Didn't even know I was screaming because I couldn't hear my own scream. That's how the driver that hit me knew that he hit me. His car was smashing my body and he didn't see me. It was a bad storm. It was dark. He didn't see me at all. He heard my scream. I couldn't hear my own scream. Something in my body, I don't know if it was adrenaline or something, I couldn't hear myself screaming at all. Not once. I can't imagine being on that second floor and being stabbed multiple times and almost as if, you know, how do you fight that? How? You can't. You can't. And that roommate on the second floor being probably asleep from coming home at 1 a.m. and at sometimes falling asleep, literally being woke up out of her sleep, hearing the screams and cries. It may be commotion, something falling or being knocked over, or maybe even a body falling to the ground. Terror. This is terror beyond a nightmare. Two people, so not one person, two people on the second floor, literally feet from you, and you can hear them. And she's literally getting up, so her door is shut. You know, when you shut a door, it shuts sound off. It's not just separation, privacy, it closes off sound. It keeps us outside sound, and then you have the sound privacy in your space. For her to hear that through the door and still be a nice distance away around the corner, and to hear that, to wake up to that, and she's opening the door and listening, and she can hear someone say because it's quiet in the house. And this is why I feel the third floor now, just walking through this with you, they may have been unalived first because where was the time to go to the second floor? I'm sorry, to go from the second floor to the third floor. Where was the time? If you're unaliving the people on the second floor and the roommate that's on the second floor that was unharmed hears it, looks out the door, can hear you saying, I'm here to help you, that means that someone was still alive or moving on that in that bedroom in that second floor because he had to say something to calm them down because they were probably in a panic. And this makes me think that Ethan was attacked first. And this is why I said in a few videos ago that I always felt that Ethan was the bigger threat between him and Zayna. And Ethan probably was attacked first. And if there was one or two or more killers, the other person can say, I'm here to help you. Because the first person just attacked Ethan. And the second person is trying to calm down Zayna. And one thing that he's saying is, I am here. See, I didn't hurt Ethan. I'm the second person, possibly. I'm here to help you. And then attack Zayna because they both were stabbed. They both received stab wounds that unalived them. And this is why I feel when the roommate on the second floor is saying that that person walked past, we don't know if it was the killer or not, but when that person walked past and they walked past her, it's still very hard to, it's very hard to process that if this was the killer or one of the killers, it's very hard to process the idea that that person walked past her. This is why I felt that maybe, possibly, as one example, she may have known the killer or killers, or maybe because she was not involved in whatever was happening to the other four roommates that were unalive, that she was not a threat. And the mere fact that she is seeing the possible killer or killers, that was enough of a threat that she was not supposed to call. I don't know if this person said don't call 911 or if you call 911, this is going to happen to you. I don't know. And by her being maybe um, in fear, maybe her just going to the room, locking the door, and hiding was all she could do. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't understand that if this was a professional hit, that they would not have unalived all six people that were in the house. Possibly they didn't know the other two were there, but I doubt it because if you're saying that person walked past you and did not harm you, it does not make sense to me. Unless you already knew the killer or killers, then they didn't have to harm you because the message was there by harming the other roommates. The example was already there. There's something more um, to it, and that's why we need the person, the roommate on the second floor that was unharmed. We need her testimony. There is a lot to offer. There's a lot of questions that would be answered. Maybe there would be more understanding. Um, if it's hard to kind of understand the order of things because even if the roommates, Kaylee and Maddie, which were on the third floor, were unalive first, why wouldn't the roommates have heard that there was a roommate on the first floor and a roommate on the second floor? The distance, the proximity, I can understand why the roommate on the first floor would not have heard what was going on the third floor. And maybe the roommate on the second floor was in a deep sleep. And maybe she couldn't hear any crashing or crying or screaming. I can only imagine the dog Murphy. He was on the third floor. I can only imagine him barking, 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 barking. Because when you have an animal and they hear you in distress, they will try to break that door down, but this was a small dog. But they will scratch and, try to get out of that room to help you, to come see about you. And from what law enforcement released, that he was unharmed, he was placed in another room, and the door was shut. So I would suggest trying to, if I was law enforcement, trying to obtain any surveillance video with a dog constantly barking because this dog is going to bark. If you're hearing commotion, if you're hearing crying, screaming, and this is your owner, that dog is going to bark. That dog should have scratched up the door, just trying to get out. I think that's something that law enforcement, if they haven't known, that's something they can look to do, is to try to get any audio or the house across the street that has a video if they can hear a dog barking, 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 barking. Because that's what dogs do. They'll bark when they hear the owner in distress. So that's another big piece. Um, just just the timing that the murders happened and the roommates, the unharmed roommates calling police. Just so much information about them calling other people. We don't know if they had guests in the house, if there were guests that spent the night. If so, who are they? Um, that's something that would need to be detailed. Why the long wait to call 911? And when 911 is called, you're not calling them because of the actual death. You're not asking for an ambulance to come. You're not asking for medical help. Um, that has to be explained. Um, there's just no way around it. And then others being there, and the front door being open, you know, um, people coming into the crime scene. I know from when I watched a lot of the video, I did not see law enforcement with the little booties on their shoes. I didn't see a lot of gloves. I didn't see masks. I didn't see anybody in a jumpsuit. You don't want to take evidence into the house and you don't want to take evidence out of the house. So if you're taking shoe impressions, these police officers should have booties on their shoes so they're not leaving new shoe impressions. We want to make sure that the crime scene is not being contaminated. Knowing who was in that crime scene, what were they doing? It was a lot of different investigators there. At one point, I did see an investigator kind of standing at the door, kind of making sure nobody came in. So that made me feel like maybe that was the exit. In the back of the house because the door was open. I saw law enforcement standing there. So I'm thinking, okay, was the assailant or the assailants leaving out that way, and that's why he's standing there to kind of protect the integrity of the scene. It just seemed like it was a lot of going in and out. And if anyone knows, can they please tell me when were the four unalived roommates' bodies removed by the coroner or medical examiner? When were those bodies removed? Because I cannot recall a time when the bodies were taken from the house to the medical examiner office. Did anybody see that? Sometimes, the van will pull up and then you will see them take them out, usually in black body bags, but I've even seen white because they're least expensive, more, economically cost efficient. Um, but did anybody see the bodies removed? When were the bodies removed? When you're trying to get a time of death, you don't want to rely on just one source. So one source could possibly be looking at video, camera, text messages, last phone calls, last interaction, last social media activity. That can be something you can look at and consider. You can look at their last meal. What was that digested? You can consider if there's any video of them. That could give you an idea of where they were last at, kind of estimate. Um, just like the food delivery. We know this person was alive at 4:05 a.m. because allegedly the driver handed the food over to them. That's something else that can be looked at. So we have to find multiple ways to try to get to the time of death and allowing a body to sit, allowing the process of death, the rigor mortis, the body starting to deteriorate, all of that process um, that hurts us as far as time because that affects being able to zero in on that time of death. And that's very important in this case because we are trying to place the killer or killer at the scene, near the scene, en route to the scene, leaving the scene, exiting the scene. We're trying to use video surveillance, not so much eyewitnesses, but we do have the two unharmed roommates, and the one on the second floor said she woke up approximately 4 a.m. Was that from the delivery of the food, or was that from at that time there was a struggle? Were the two roommates on the second floor, the two occupants on the second floor, the two people on the second floor, two victims on the second floor, Zane and Ethan, did they eat the food? Was the food processing in their body? Did they not get a chance to eat the food? They show the food in the kitchen. Did it start in the kitchen and move to the bedroom? Or did it start in the bedroom from things that were put out? Both scenes were contained in the room. So the violence was in the room and did not come into the hallway. Is that why there was a delay in calling 911? Did the roommate on the second floor think that that was a visitor, that was a boyfriend, or it's so many questions, right? So many things to consider. And when you go back to the beginning and we bring it forward to today and say this was a target attack, a possible stalker, did someone watch the cars? Did they want everybody in the house? Because what person decides to commit a crime, this would be a challenge. Three cars parked in the front, four cars parked in the front. Like someone on the first floor, second floor, third floor, house full. Who decides to commit a crime with 4, 5, 6 people in the house. Is that a challenge? Now, in the past, have they seen serial killers that like the challenge their first time out? They want to go and kill 3 people, 4 people. It happens. But honestly, most killers, they want an easy target. They want to get away with this. They don't want to go to jail. Most of them, they want to be recognized, so they may do things like B2K and some others write letters to the media, send little notes, and give little tips. They want the attention. They want to give themselves a name. Call me the B2K killer. Call me this, right? But who decides to go into a house to unalive people? And it's a house full of cars parked in the front, bunch of 4 cars. If there's a stalker, the stalker knows the target. Wouldn't it be easier to just get the target outside the house? Or was there always a plan to go in the house? The person or persons that decided to commit this crime, they brought the knife with them, right? That knife was not a part of the house. The girls did not own that knife if that was a murder weapon. If, because we need that autopsy, because we need to compare wounds. We need to know if Kaylee, Maddie, Zane, and Ethan have the same wound pattern. Was it one knife? Because from what was reported in the news, and this is why it's kind of sad, but this is what we're gleaning from, some of the victims had gaping wounds. That was a different type of cut, a deeper cut, a different knife, maybe a bigger knife, a longer knife, a wider blade, not a thin blade, a blade this wide, not that wide. Because you can't necessarily gauge length. Because when you stab a person, the knife might not go all the way in. You may only stick a person if you do quick jab. The knife might only go 3 or 4 inches. But if you have a 10-inch knife, do you put that knife all the way through the body? Do you pierce them all the way and pull it out? And I already described to you how blood works. Blood drips. When that knife comes out, the blood is going to drip. When the knife comes down and you pull it back, oh, you got blood splattering up here. You got blood on the wall, blood on the ceiling. And the blood is going to be dropping down. So you're going to have to drop the idea that there is no blood trail. That would make me believe the killer was in the house the whole time. Because I know when someone is stabbed, the victim is going to be gushing out blood. But that knife is going to cause the spray, the splatter, the drop. That blood is going to be on your shoes, in your hair, on your face, on your hands, on your clothing, dripping down your arm. It's going to be everywhere. And 2 people in 2 rooms? And you mean to tell me there's no shoe impressions? Even if you put on a booty and cover up your shoes, you're going to have blood over the booty. Now, is this person in 8 minutes going to take a whole jumpsuit off, put it in a bag, and take it with them? Essentially, that's what they would have to do. Is take a whole, maybe you have one of those crime scene white jumpsuits, and your head is covered, your face, you have on goggles, you have on a face mask, you have a jumpsuit on that covers your shoes, and then when you exit the room, you just peel it all off and put it in a plastic bag and keep walking. And you still gotta go to the 3rd floor, right? We can't forget the 3rd floor. And you want me to believe this happened? 4 murders, 2 rooms, 2 floors in 8 minutes. No blood path, no blood droplets, no blood in the car, no bloody path. That's a hard one to believe, y'all. It's hard. That's hard. That's hard to believe and comprehend. And when I go back to the beginning on some of the things that the police said, that this was a targeted attack. The killer came knowing, prepared with the knife or whatever the weapon is, because we don't know. We don't have the autopsy report. We don't know if the weapon wounds are the same. Was it one knife, two knives, multiple knives? Was it other objects? We don't know. We know that some of the victims had different, more, the wounds were defensive. So that means you're fighting, you're trying to stop the knife, you're trying to take the knife, block the knife. You may be fighting, so you're getting defensive wounds, you're getting cuts on your hands, your arms. When that knife is coming down to stab you, you're trying to block it, stop it, fight back, push the person off of you. And that's why I always paid attention to Kohberger in court. When he was initially arrested, I looked at him hard because I wanted to know, did the police get pictures of his body, his hands, his arms, his chest? When somebody's fighting back, when they're trying to stop an attack, they may be scratched, they may be scratched on their face. Especially females may have DNA under their nails. I told you about how when the medical examiner comes in, they bag the hands because it could be DNA, it could be skin cells. There's only so much you can do to cover up your face and neck. Most girls will fight back, scratch. They'll cut the nails. They will dust the hands. It's hard, y'all. It's hard to think that this happened and there's just no evidence. This almost feels like a professional, not just a targeted attack, but almost like a professional hit. There's no evidence. There's no DNA. There's no footprint. There's no weapon. There's no clear path that they left out. They just walked out. They walked in and they walked out. Were they already there? Was the killer already there? Was the killer in the house? Did the killer never leave the house? Where is the bloody clothes? Where is the glove? Where is the knife or knife or whatever weapon was used? Where's the shoes? The socks? You have blood in places you never thought would be inside your socks when you brought on your underwear. Because this splatter is going down your shirt, it's in your ear, it's in your hair. You almost have to like cut your hair off. It can get in crevices, places. I'm sure this is probably one of the worst crime scenes that the Idaho Police Department ever experienced. Probably wasn't prepared for, with not having a lot of murders. Wasn't a big city like you have more murder cases in Chicago, Atlanta, different parts of California. You know, constantly every day you have a forensic team. That's all they do is go out to crime scenes one after another every day. This is not the case in Idaho. Idaho, probably for the most part, was probably considered a safe community, a great place to raise kids, have a family, very economically wise to move there, a good school system, all things that people look forward to. They actually leave bigger cities to go to smaller places, smaller cities, smaller communities where they can get like a home friendly down environment. And I'm sure none of their parents thought that this was going to happen. But what does concern me is a little bit of some of the students' family background with the past criminal activity. But we'll keep that separate because we're just going to focus on the scene. But that does concern me. And the reason it concerns me is because sometimes when a person has some type of criminal past, some type of criminal activity, that can definitely come full circle to your family. You know, people will target family members. If you have kids that they can't get to you, they may be trying to send a sign. You get that with gang violence, like it could really come to a place where a person will attack your family or kids because of something, you know, that you did or they can't reach you. Now, I'm not saying that's the case. I have no idea, but that could play a part in maybe what the defense would say and use in cross examination or putting on witnesses is past criminal acts, past criminal behavior, what a person was involved in. For example, if there was some drug use, if there was issues, or people would have problems with you. Somebody wanted retaliation, they wanted revenge. Um, Snitching is a big thing. They feel like if you're a snitch, and you tell on other criminals, they may want to, you know, get revenge on you or, you know, hurt you. So that could play a part in it too. I don't know, but I think the defense will have many issues, many avenues to bring up. Just with that alone, but also just the crime scene being contaminated. Um, People in the crime scene. That's it. I saw in the news the police didn't have the proper equipment. They didn't have protective things like covering up their shoes. They weren't in suits. It did not seem like they were prepared. And maybe that's why the Idaho State Police got involved, the FBI got involved, you know, to add services, to add some procedure, some more ways to handle the investigation because they don't have the experience of prosecuting people for things like homicide. They probably had a lot of DUIs, maybe some drug arrests, just like across the country right now. Fentanyl use is up, so you have a lot of people dying and overdosing on drugs that you know you harming yourself. But that's something that you know smaller cities have to deal with, even larger cities. But you know it's going to hit smaller cities differently. In larger cities, you have all type of crimes every day ongoing. So there's a lot of experience with just dealing with scenes, collecting evidence, the medical examiners coming in. There won't be any waiting. You know, 5, 8 hours to go to a scene. No. But those are bigger cities and they have teams that go out, you know, every day and that's all they do is go see. I don't think that Idaho has the same level of crime, but when mistakes are made or things are missed or precautions aren't taken, you know, the defense has to, you know, to explore those things and look into those things, investigate them. Just like I'm very curious to know, just with some of the technology that's being used, like the FBI was involved and they helped. There was some placement of uh, how Kohberger allegedly was driving and what time he was at certain areas, and the alleged white Elantra. How do you know that was his car? How do you know that was his make and his body? And can you place him in that car? Do you have video of his face in the car as the driver? Was someone else driving the car? Was it even his car? How do you differentiate um, this white four-door car from other white four-door cars? Because when I did some looking a few months back, I was just going online to kind of see, you know, history-wise, what cars is parked in front of 1122 King Road. That's a popular address now. I saw all kind of white four-door cars, and I'm like, well, how do we know it's Bryan Kohberger's car? Like, I know he was driving around, and they said he did it 12 times, but how do we know that was his car at that time? Because I'm concerned about the 2:52 a.m. time when Kaylee and Maddie's phone both stopped. There was no more activity. I want to know why. And as I said, well, where was Brian Kohberger at the time? From what I learned, he was leaving his residence. He was not in Idaho at the time. So that's why I feel, well, is there a possible second killer, or what is he not even the killer? And then I'm concerned, as I said before, about the cell phone data. What are they using? What 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 area? you know, what's the distance? How accurate can they be? Is it three towers that are coming together to place him there? And how close to the house? Is it a mile? Is it half a mile? Is it a block? Is it 10 feet? Like, I want to know. And I guess that will all come out if it goes to trial, correct? Because that's going to be expert testimony. It's the tracking of the car, viewing the video. At first, they said it was a different year, 2011 to 2013. I even heard that it could be a Jaguar. Now we're up to this car, which I believe is a 2016. Okay, well, we have to see, right? Because we don't know, but we have to listen to this expert testimony. Now, if there are cameras everywhere, can they place him, not just the car, but his face in the car? I saw it was like a traffic light or a traffic camera, and I guess that was him in the car. But can we visually see that camera moving? Can we get the correct date, the correct time? Because I think it has to be specific in this case, especially because it's a death penalty case that they're placing him, not just a car that's a four-door white something, a mantra of some year, that is placing him also in the car. I don't know how you do that, but I think it can be done. I think everybody needs to go and search for this murder time, and that's why we have to go back to the time of death to try to figure out, can we back this up? Because they don't have all the cell phone records because allegedly the phone was off or died, whatever. They don't have his exact movement. And when he did his alibi, which he's required to provide specific place, specific time, names and addresses of people that can confirm where he was. Well, if he's out driving alone, can we get a video? Can we get surveillance of him leaving the house? Let's see what he's wearing then, and then can we get surveillance of him getting out that car? What's the condition of the car? Do he have the same clothes on? That's pretty simple, right? And then, how long did he go? What time did he leave and what time did we come back? We still have no idea. So I would like to know that. I would like to know if there were any stops. Because if you're driving for an extended period, and again, extended means unknown, we don't know, not less than 2 hours, maybe not more than eight. You leave on a Saturday, you come back Sunday, approximately what, 5:30 is when the phone got turned on? But we don't know. We need to know. He has a phone, he has a clock in his car. What time? Where did you go? Where specifically did you go? How long were you there? Did you ever stop again? Food, drink, water, the bathroom, gas. You want to see a friend, a girlfriend, a hangout buddy, a co-worker. You want to stop at the bar. You've driven for all these hours and no stop. Did you get gas? Is there any record of anything? Did you go to the ATM? We need to know. And it's really the prosecutor's responsibility to follow up, to confirm what this alibi is saying. And it's not saying a lot right now. All right, y'all. This is hard because there's a mixed opinion. There's a lot of unanswered questions, but it's not Bryan Kohberger's job to prove his innocence. It's the prosecutor's job to prove his guilt, to place him there, to put that weapon in his hand with evidence. Is it possible that one person could unalive four people in 8 minutes? They put themselves in a tight, 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 timeline. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying it's going to be very difficult, extremely hard to show that. And because a lot of the other evidence, if we want to put it in a category of circumstantial, until you can place him there, you don't have him on video, you have a white four-door Elantra, allegedly an Elantra, because before, like I said, it was said to be a Tesla, maybe some other vehicles. I don't remember everything, but it's circumstantial in my opinion. How many other people have white four-door cars? I saw them when I looked at the Google Maps months ago, and I just couldn't believe like somebody lived right here with a four-door white car. Somebody's parked in front of the murder house with a four-door white. I was just surprised when I went through it. So it's a lot that is unanswered and it's circumstantial at best. Even the touch DNA, and we can go back and forth about the touch DNA and how they got his his family tree built and I would like to know. I must know when the sheep was found. Was it found on a police body cam? Meaning, when the police or the medical examiner was going through the room to collect evidence, take pictures, do video. When this comforter was pulled back, was that chief found on the police video? Because some people could believe that it was placed there. And the reason being is those two FBI stops were so well. The FBI is saying they did not have any involvement in the two stops when Bryan Kohberger, his dad, was returning home. Getting stopped two times in 10 minutes. Nobody's really asking for your driver's license, registration, no real reason to stop you saying you're closely driving behind somebody else. It appears to be staged. And that's why I named them FBI stops. The FBI is saying they didn't have any involvement. So let's be clear about that. But it just seems odd. It seems very awkward, unlikely. So a lot of people, may feel that they were trying to frame him. The police were trying to frame Bryan Kohberger. So I want to know if the body cam from the police shows the sheep. And if so, I would like to see the body cam. I would like to see that unedited because a lot of people don't trust the police. So I would like to see the body cam. And again, I've already gave a ton of examples in other videos about touch DNA, how it's not reliable, how a lot of times the police are using it, but it's just fallacy. You can get touch DNA, it just can be transferred so easily. And it doesn't tell you how long something is there. Now, what's important in this incident, what's very important in this incident is it was found on allegedly the sheep, and the sheep was found allegedly on the third floor in the bedroom where the girl was. So that's what makes it so important. And then the prosecutor doesn't want to expose how the family tree was built and things like that. Well, that would probably be considered exculpatory evidence. And even if they don't want to use it at trial, the defense may want to use it. And they may want to have a rebuttal to that evidence. So it is important. And that could definitely be a reason if a conviction is had, that's a reason for an appeal. So you are to share all evidence that's considered exculpatory. Exculpatory evidence is evidence that tends to lean to showing or proving the defendant's innocence. So that's why it's important for it to be shared. So that's just like another thing out of all the things that's going on in this case. Um, it's a lot. I'm not sure if the trial is going to go on October 2nd or if Kohberger is going to waive his right to a speedy trial. I don't know if his defense team is prepared. I don't know if the prosecutor's office is prepared, but they're all set to go October 2nd. They're clearing the judge's calendar. So that will be set in motion. And he's moving forward. So I don't know. That's a lot. A lot to think about. And the sad part is, if Bryan Kohberger is not the killer, then who is? Who's getting away with it? Because all eyes, all media, every move, searching, scouring his background, his family, his history, his education, how he grew up, childhood friends, every aspect of his life has been picked apart. And if he is not the actual assailant, then who the heck is? And it's been time spent, money spent, and it could be someone completely different where resources are taken away, not focused on that person. And that's why it's also important, if the prosecutor is not interested in those other DNA profiles, then again, that's exculpatory evidence. The defense is going to want to know, who does that DNA belong to? And honestly, I thought it would be thousands of different profiles because they're having parties, and unless they're cleaning walls and wiping everything down, there's going to be DNA everywhere. Everywhere in the party house. So three unknown profiles, I thought, listen, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. You know, if you just have a regular person's home and they have family gatherings and things like that, you could have 50 different profiles easily. So I didn't think three was bad at all. Like if you're crying about three, you know, come to someone's house that just has a large family. You may be looking at 50 to 100. And then you have to eliminate all these people. And that was the other thing. I know in the beginning, some of the families, the victims of the family, they were concerned with how people were getting eliminated, and just with the stalker idea and looking into that, and the police kind of pouring more energy into that because um, if someone's being stalked and a parent has to come and change lives, there was clearly some type of level of a threat, of fear. If your parent has to come as you being a female and they have to come and change the locks to your door, you're feeling some kind of uncomfortableness and fear. So my question would be, well, what happened? What happened prior to this incident? What caused the violence to occur on this day at this time with these students? Because all of the students weren't harmed, four out of the six. And we're not even aware if the two that were unharmed, if 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 it just passed them by or they avoided them, because one's on the first floor. How do you avoid them if you came through the front door? Which I believe they came through the back door. And then when you're coming off that back door, you're gonna pass by, and that one bedroom is off, to the side. And then if you keep going, the room that Zayna and Ethan were in was right there. And then you have to kind of go around and then go up a few steps to get to the third floor. And if a live roommate that was on the second floor saw the alleged person leaving, how did they didn't get harmed? Like, questions, man. And that's why I was in the past few videos addressing the idea of maybe some of the students could possibly be involved in maybe drugs, selling drugs. I'm not saying that that's the case, but you have to consider that because that would make, not, I don't want to say a target, make you a target, but if there's something that's going wrong, or if there's money owed, or if there was a bad batch of drugs, so many reasons why a person would harm somebody in that world. So that's something that was also out there. Many comments about the house being a known drug house and not just being a party house, but a place where you could go and buy drugs from some of the roommates of that. I have no idea, but that's something that is definitely out there among other different ideas. A lot of different thoughts, ideas. We are trying to address respectfully in a way the harsh reality that these four students being unalive, now we're coming to a point where we're coming up on 1 year of their death, and we still have so many unanswered questions, things we don't know, things that we're still questioning, we're still trying to figure out, we're still pondering, and we don't have answers. And that's going to come somewhat from the trial if it happens, and also the two alive roommates. They can provide some answers. The videos of what the police obtained that may provide some answers. And then again, we know that Bryan Kohberger, he stood mute. He did not say he was guilty or innocent. So was that a strategy? And the reason I'm saying that, it goes back to the alleged question, well, was someone else arrested? Possibly, again, that you have an accomplice, right? So when you're standing mute and you're not saying you're guilty or innocent, is that a strategy so that later, if you're fighting for your life because they're going after you for the death penalty, that you can say, well, I never said I was guilty or innocent. I never admitted nor denied the crime. Like, it's all things that you have to question, you have to think about. Or was the strategy so that the judge could say, well, we're going to enter a not guilty plea for you? Is it more powerful that the judge is saying it? And that's going to bring something to pass that the judge is saying you're not guilty? In all honesty, if I wrap this up in a bow, I don't think I could convict him. Not with the evidence that's been in the public. If I was on a jury right now, I have so many questions, and I'm not calling them doubt. I'm just not there yet. It's definitely not for death penalty. You'd have to take the death penalty off the table for me, because from Bryan Kohberger's own actions, is that literally was said by him. On top of that, the question, the video of the white car. I won't even call it no watcher because it was said to be a test of some other models. The wrong year. The roommate's not calling the police for 7.5 hours. The two roommates that were unharmed never called the police. It's hard. It's very hard to just believe that they didn't have anything involved. Not saying that they did, but it's hard to believe that something else was not going on. That would make people wonder, ponder. Oh, were they cleaning up? Were they involved? We have no idea, of course, but that's still going to make you wonder. You're calling friends over, but you're not calling the police. You're not calling 911. You're not asking for ambulance services. And these are your roommates, your friends. But there's no care. There's no concern. Then you have to ask why. So for me, death penalty would have to be off the table. And the evidence that's in front of me, I'm not moved by the touch DNA at all. I would have to see that police body cam unedited footage of the police finding that sheet for me to consider that. And then again, I would still have questions because there's also information out there about certain officers. And that brings into question reliability, credibility. There would be so many challenges that the prosecutor would have to overcome for a juror like me that has some knowledge, some experience. Um, I'm not sold on the eyewitness testimony, and I'm not sold on the statement ironclad in black. I don't think somebody 20, 21, 22 years old will even speak like that. Seems like something that law enforcement would have told someone older, not a college student. So it's just so many questions, um, so much to think about. And the unfortunate thing about it all is, as this time has passed, don't have many answers. And we have four deaths, and seemingly for no reason, no reason at all. Not to say that something didn't happen, but I do not feel in any way whether this was targeted, whether this was a stalker, whether this was just somebody picking these poor students, or whether it was some type of drug related. I don't feel that anything that they could have done in life would equate to what has happened to them causing their death. To be bludgeoned in the manner, in the violent act, you know, what caused this violence to come to their home? They're asleep, they're laying in their beds, they're watching TV, they're on social media, they're ordering food. You know, they just come in from a Saturday having fun, hanging with their friends, and this happens to them. And I just can't see any reason that could explain it. It will never be right. It will never be right to me. So I just wanted to jump on here and kind of give my thoughts. Um, it's just really sad. And if the trial happens October 2nd, I would be stunned because I honestly don't feel like the prosecution or the defense are prepared, and they're setting themselves up to rush this case to trial. I think it's important that Bryan Kohberger experiences a speedy trial in the sense that this trial is not delayed for 2, 3 years because he is arrested and he's innocent. This is taking his life, his time. He was a PhD student. All of this is education away. This time he can never regain. But I think it has to be done in a way that will honor both the prosecution as putting this case on for these unalive students, and then also respecting his right to have a speedy trial, to have a trial in 6 months. But I don't feel that either the prosecution or the defense are ready. They're still fighting over evidence, sharing evidence, preparing for trial. They're still fighting over the DNA evidence. Um, the defense just said they want to file a motion to dismiss. They have until I think August 23rd, today, I believe, to file that. So there's still some litigation going on before they've even got to the point where they can have a trial. They're still arguing over evidence, share evidence. What is exculpatory evidence? What's important evidence? What evidence do you need to share? We're still talking about the alibi. He submitted the second alibi, which didn't have anything specific about it. It's not really an alibi because there was nothing specific. There was no information, no witnesses, nothing that the prosecutor could confirm. They already knew his route. They already tracked his phone. They tracked him on camera. They already knew he was out driving. He just gave them something that they already knew. He didn't provide any new details. And this ping ponging back and forth, they're fighting over it. And I'm sure there's going to be a deadline where they're not going to address it anymore. That door will be closed. But he didn't provide an alibi details specific like the Idaho statute says he's required to do. He didn't do that. So having a trial in five, less than 6 weeks, uh, as I said in the beginning, and you can go back to the whole video. I said next year, I said 2024, I said let the holidays go by. You have November, December, New Year. Let them come back fresh after the New Year about January, February, and both be prepared to put on a trial. And unfortunately for Kohlberger, that's an additional 4 to 6 months. However, this is your life because they are going after the death penalty with you. You got one shot. You don't want to take this and appeal it. That may take years. You got one shot, just like the prosecutor. Really, you didn't want to do the preliminary exam because you didn't want to expose and give them the peekaboo of your case. Look where that's got you. You're fighting over evidence that's clearly exculpatory. No one should have to tell you that. DNA that matches him on the sheet. That's exculpatory evidence. You're an attorney. Like, stop cut the BS. Those DNA profiles of potential other possible suspects. That's exculpatory. That is an action that he can appeal. Why are you blocking this and wasting time? You know this has to go to trial in 6 weeks. Like, cut the BS. They're having to do motion after motion to get you to submit to what you know. You know you have to share this evidence. I don't know what's going on there, but they wasted so much time. I'm not giving anybody any legal advice, but I would definitely be keeping everything above board, complying, and looking to the future. If I was innocent, you taking my time, my liberty, you're trying to take my life, and I'm innocent. Okay, we'll see, right? We'll see. It's a lot to this case, and when you have 4 victims, it's a lot involved. That's a lot of witnesses. Just scheduling all of those witnesses to testify. Then you have your experts. They don't even have all the evidence to even investigate the evidence, send it off to a lab, let alone prepare expert witnesses. Because it's up to Kohberger whether he testifies. But that's only one piece of the case. You still want to bring in your own witness, your expert testimony. You want to have prepared exhibits and things that you can show the jury and cross examination. If you don't have the evidence, how do you prepare? You don't even know what you're preparing for. So it's a lot, y'all. It's a lot. I think it needs to either go for a continuance, a 30-day continuance. They have in the state of Idaho, they have two 30-day continuances. Do a 30-day continuance or waive your right to a speedy trial. I don't know because you got one shot. You have one chance, and you better be ready. The prosecution, they're saying they're not backing down. They know you're the guy. You're at least one of the people that were involved. They're coming for you. They're not backing down. I saw that hearing. They're not backing down. They're saying, why do you want this evidence? They almost acted like the DNA evidence didn't exist for the other 3 unknown males. And I'm thinking to myself, like, what the hell is going on? Because you know there's 3 DNA profiles, but you did not have them tested. You only tested the DNA on the sheep. What the hell is going on? Why wouldn't you test it? And you're saying, well, we don't have records, we don't have information on that, as if the DNA profiles didn't exist. You're not saying they didn't exist. You're pretty much saying you didn't send them to the lab and have them tested. But you did a whole genealogy workup for Kohberger that you're fighting him on providing that information. But you didn't do anything with the other 3 unknown male DNA profiles. And then you want to argue that this is not exculpatory evidence. Evidence that could possibly show, demonstrate his innocence. And you don't want to share it. Like, I was so done with that. I said, I don't know. I'm watching the Twilight Zone. Like, what the heck is going on? I thought it was wild. And the way he said it was like indignant. Like, what do you mean? We gave you everything. He acted as if he wasn't aware. Like, is this some kind of con? I'm like, what is going on? You giving a defense. I don't think she was trying to trap you with what you said, but you're giving the defense all the grounds for an appeal, whether you know it or not. She's on the record filing motions to get exculpatory evidence. And you're literally on the record acting as if you don't know this evidence exists. That is a reason for an appeal. Like, don't set this case up. If they can get the killer or killers, allow that to happen. Not an appeal that lasts 5, 10 years. No, that's not what we're here for. We're not here for that, y'all. We'll see. We'll see. It's either going to be postponed or he's going to waive his right to a speedy trial. Um, they don't have enough time to look at all this evidence. They don't even have the evidence. They're still fighting through motions to get evidence. And then once they get it, they still have to send it to their experts, send it off to a lab, get the results back, schedule an expert to review it. Then they have to come in, schedule all their witnesses. How is all that going to happen? It's not, right? Let's be honest. They've had this case since the end of last year, December 30th of last year. Fast forward 7, almost 8 months, and they're still not providing evidence. If that's not a violation of your right to a speedy trial, I don't know what is. Do a 30-day continuance, see where that gets you. I don't know. You got two of them. You may want to save those for later if something else comes up and you need more time, right? So let's see where it gets us. Let's see where it gets us. I know that alibi wasn't an alibi, and they're fighting and they're both doing things. That was not an alibi, not according to Idaho statute. There's nothing specific about it, and there was no witnesses to confirm anything. And we don't know if there was stops. We just don't know. So there are a lot of questions. We're really running up against that 1 year. And the sad part about it all is we really don't know who killed those four people. We don't know. And that's the unfortunate part of all of it. Their lives were taken. They didn't have a chance against the night. And now we're coming up on a 1 year anniversary, and we still have no idea because there's so much reasonable doubt. So much reasonable doubt. I could not even, and I don't even like to refer to Bryan Kohberger as a assailant, a killer. I'm not going to do that unless there's a conviction. But I honestly could not convict anybody, not just him, anybody, on what I'm hearing. Not from the car surveillance, the video. No, not unless I see that sheet with the DNA on a police cam. I'm not gonna believe that. Not me. No, absolutely not. No. And I'm not saying anything about law enforcement. I'm just saying I need to put this together, not because somebody said it. I need to have some supporting evidence, some supporting ways to confirm what has happened, especially with the past history of them, possibly interfering with evidence and things like that, allegedly. I would need a third party confirmation video would work for me. Even placing him there 12 times over the time prior to the November 13th murders. I need more information. Do you have video of him there? You said he was there. Do you have video of him there? How close? What's the distance from the house? Was it at the house? Was it outside the house? Was it around the corner? Was it at a party at the house? Can anybody place him there? Do you have video of him being there? What is the distance? Because it all is based on what's the distance. Was he 10 blocks from the house? 1 block away? In the backyard, like I need to know. I think they used to call it when they can figure out where you are, triangulation. They use about three different towers, and those three different towers will work together to place you. It's like math. They can place you, triangulate your space and um, the signals that they're getting and place you somewhere. But I don't know how far of a distance would that be because some towers they can cover a large area, like 30 miles, and then other towers not so much. This is a small city. So are towers based on distance? Is it based on traffic? So you're near a college, you're on a sorority road, so you have a lot of people coming and going. So are these towers picking up, pinging off each other? Are they based on traffic? Does one have too much traffic, so it push you to another one? Like all of that plays we need the expert because to me, there's not a lot of detail. There's not a lot of specific details, and maybe just for the affidavit, they don't want to provide the details. Maybe that's where the experts are going to come in and testify with those details, with the knowledge, with the experience, with maps, with pictures, with ways to diagram and show us specifically how they're placing him close to the murder scene. But we don't know that. We don't know. But maybe they're being, I don't want to say vague, but intentionally not providing us with too much information because all of this is going to play out at trial, which is great, right? It gives us something to look forward to watch. Hopefully, the trial is televised, so we're not getting reports of what happened versus seeing because it's a great way to learn the law, learn the legal proceedings. We can follow along every day or when they're in court, right? That would be amazing. I'm sure this will probably be one of the largest watched trials, probably bigger than the O.J. Simpson trial. And like I said before, this is like the trial of the century. And that's why we don't need this rush. We don't need to try to go to trial in 6 weeks when just giving maybe, I would say, additional 2 months would help everybody, both the prosecution and the defense, be more prepared at trial with their experts, with their witnesses, with their diagrams, with the testimony, with the cross examination. All of that is effort, energy, prepare, and you can't work someone over all night, every day, just trying to get to that point. And this is why the delay of the sharing of information, providing the alibi, hurts the case because it's putting more pressure at the end when these things could have been provided considerably a while ago, right? And if you're using secondary services like sending out for DNA, any type of expert identification, review, you're also relying on them to come back. What if evidence comes back late? What if there's a delay? And the trial is already going? How do you wait for that? What if it's 2 weeks, a month out? You just can't rush it just on the strength of time. Now, should there be a commitment, some type of agreement that by this time we want to be at trial? And that's why I'm saying after the holidays, after the new year, maybe late January, early February, okay, let's go. Let's get started. We're ready. We're ready, prepared. We're sharp. Both sides are ready. They have everything in order to go forward. That's what we need because we don't need to make any mistakes. We want to protect his rights as a defendant. We want to make sure we honor them, but we also want to get it right on the front end because they only have one chance. You can't have double jeopardy. You can't charge him with these crimes again later if he's found not guilty. And the way this case is looking, I could see a split in those jurors. I could see a split in those jurors, definitely. There is reasonable doubt. I could tell you 10 things right now. Let's go over reasonable doubt real quick. since we're having this conversation, I'm telling you how I feel. Let's talk about just a few things, right? Number one, the car. The things that I just said about the car, the different year, the different models, right? Number two, the fact that it's touch DNA. That's the easy one, right? It's not reliable. It can be transferred. We don't know when it was placed, especially if it's not on the body cam, right? Number three, let's talk about the crime scene being contaminated. Those officers did not have jumpsuits on, did not have covers over their shoes. So you're telling me I'm supposed to trust shoe impression? I'm supposed to just trust the shoe impression. And you're going after the death penalty. So everything needs to be top notch. It needs to be right and right the first time. Number four, the testimony or the account of the roommate on the second floor. When she said, a person, ironclad in black, this does not sound like something that a college student would say, walked past me. After four vicious murders, an alleged assailant walked past me. Number five, where is the DNA evidence? Where's the fingerprints, the shoe impressions, the bloody clothes, the bloody shoes, the bloody socks? Where is it? Where did it go? Where's the knife? Where? They say when you go into a scene and leave, you take something with you. Where is that? Where did it go? Number six, keep moving, right? The time that it took from the time of the murder until, I won't say law enforcement was called, but 911 was called. What was happening during those hours, right? What was going on? Who called 911? Usually by now, a 911 call is released. In the past, there have been information out there that a fake 911 call has been created in a different case. Okay? Has nothing to do with this case, the Idaho 4 murders. But why isn't that 911 call released by now? We're almost pushing a year. Why can't we know who called 911? Why can't we hear the 911 call? That's a big one. Number seven, we need to know who was all in the house the night of the murder. We know that the two unharmed roommates, the four victims, but was there anybody else in the house? Was there anybody else in the house? Simple question, right? You still don't know the answer to. I think I'm on number seven or eight. When the report came out, and this was in the very beginning, it said, oh, the front door was open. Oh, there was other people at the house. As early as 8 a.m. The victims' families was hearing from other students what had happened before the police could even call them. I can personally recall Ethan's twin brother being called before the police contacted their family to let him know that his twin had been murdered at the Idaho courthouse, right? So all of these people know the front door allegedly opened at 8 a.m. People are in the house. Excuse me. Was anything tampered with at the house? Was any evidence taken? Um, who was caught over there? How many people? Did they come in the house? Did they enter the house? Did they disturb the scene? Did they alter any evidence? We have a lot of questions, right? Number nine, the big part of all of this is when some of the victims' families were making statements, there were statements about the wounds. Was there one type of weapon, or was there multiple weapons? Because a thin knife may be totally different mark impression leaving the body, entering the body, versus a large jackknife the escaping room? Was there more than one murder weapon? Or more than one murder object? Was all of the wound patterns the same on all of the victims, right? I think I'm on like number 9 or 10. We'll just keep going. What was the time of death? Easy question, right? Very hard to show. Very, very hard to show because we have the lapsing call in the police. We have when the 911 was called, the medical examiner, I'm sorry, she called a coroner in Idaho. She admittedly said, I have the video on my Hidden Horror Facebook page, that she did not purposely, with intent, come to the homicide scene 1122 King Road between 5 and 5.5 hours. Another question, issue, problem. When was the bodies removed from the homicide scene 1122 King Road? When? How long did those bodies sit out? Because I'm concerned about time of death. I'm very concerned. I don't know how you're going to get an accurate time of death. Was the autopsy done on all the victims? Was the toxicology screen done on all the victims? That's another concern. Was there any drugs in their system? Was there any medication in their system? And if so, how much? How far can you go back on those toxicology screens for drug use, for alcohol use? Was there 10 years of drugs, 5 years of drugs, 1 year? We need to know what kind of drugs. Because there was a rumor at one point saying that there was some signal use and there could have possibly been a drug overdose, and then the status came. That's something that the defense is going to have to look into, right? And consider. Again, more reasonable doubt. There's a lot of reasonable doubt. There's a lot of unanswered questions we just don't know the answers to. We have no idea. And the sad part is we're getting closer and closer to that 1 year and we still won't know. You won't have the answer. You may never have the answer. These families, the answers aren't going to change anything. And honestly, you never have closure from a murder. You really don't. It helps to know, it helps to answer those questions, those concerns, the things that keep you up at night, that allow your heart not to rest, not to have closure. But you never have closure. When you have a family member, a loved one that's murdered, you never have closure. It never ends. That pain never goes away. What happens with time passing, you have the ability to look back, to cast back the view of how they were because they're frozen at that age, at that time, whatever they had going on in their life. They're frozen. And as your life continues to go on, you kind of cast back or flash back to memory. But that lasting memory is of the death, the murder. And you just don't get, or you're not the same person. You go on and you can survive and you take a day at a time and you try to continue your life as best you can and you're healing and you can become a healer by talking to others, sharing your experience, um, kind of dealing with if they have kids or they have other family members, helping each other, leaning on each other. But it is not always. It doesn't. And my concern is 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 there a way? And that's why I said let's go back to the beginning, the initiation of it all. Are we missing something? Do we need to go back? Do we need to start fresh? Because in all, It's not all adding up. And I'm not saying that it has to. It hasn't gone to trial. But with this many concerns, with this many unanswered questions, this is really a space where reasonable doubt is growing. And it's not to say that the police did anything wrong, but that the prosecution did anything wrong. But now with juries today being more savvy with having TV shows like my favorite Columbo, Murder She Wrote, First 48, Law and Order, um, all of these shows, Cops, America's Most Wanted, have raised the bar. The knowledge with everyday normal people, their interest in crime, in forensics and science and policing, police investigations, interrogations, forensic evidence, forensic files, that TV show, it has raised that education level. And now there's higher expectations. You can't just say something. People want you to demonstrate it, to show it. They want to see the scene. That's why I said from the beginning 1122 King Road unfortunately should not be demolished because this is a huge part of the case for people to be able to walk through, to see the scene, to see the difference, seeing it in the picture and going inside, seeing that first floor, going to the second floor, going behind the house, seeing how it was. Now again, when everything first happened, that rear was dark. I don't know if they went out there and put more light. It's totally different now, but at the time of the murders, it was dark back there. You could be standing and nobody would even see you, you know? So some changes have been made, but for the most part, they have made intact the scene, they have preserved it. So if there's a need, it's a difference between video and walking through yourself. It may be having somebody on the first floor making some noise, so can you hear it on the third floor? Maybe demonstrating what sound is like in the house because it is a house that had a build on a second floor, a third floor level, and all of that affects sound, affects the distance in hearing and of course seeing. You're not going to see the person on the third floor. I don't know that they did or didn't have cameras. I don't think so. So you're not going to hear them, see them, and then it's an unusual to hear loud sounds. You're kind of off campus, but a lot of fraternity sorority parties. It's not surprised to hear some a little bit of yelling and ruckus, people running outside and drinking and things like that. So all of that plays into the case. And there's just so many glaring things that why would you want to move forward on a case like this without having answers? Because those jurors, you're going to be able to see it on their face when they're confused, when they're stumped, when they're writing notes and sending notes to the judge about how things are unclear, how they have additional questions, that they need answers. They want to review evidence. They want to take the evidence back, look at it, see it, touch it, read it, reread it, review it. You got one shot, whether it's this person, Bryan Kohberger, or somebody else or others. You got one shot. There's no double jeopardy in the United States. You got one shot. And you better make it count because those kids, they deserve justice for what happened to them. There is no reason under the sun that I'm going to ever agree that this was something that they had coming because they had a chance at life. They were in college, whether they're perfect, whether they made mistakes, they were still living with the right of their free will to pursue whatever they wanted. And they didn't deserve it. And I don't know. That's my biggest question. What brought all this violence to this house? Out of six people, only four. Why only four? What is the difference between the other two? And they're there. And they're unharmed. And what is running into the possible assailant is questions. commit 4 murders in 8 minutes? Is it possible? In all reality, almost anything in life you have to agree is possible. But is it probable? The way that white car was going around that house and turning around and looping, was that a delivery driver looking for an address? I have no idea. But isn't that a thought? Just like before, was the killer within? Was the killer already in the house? There's no trail because the killer was in. Did the killer just leave at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. or whatever? If things get out of hand, as one person said, the creeper was already in the house and there to buy drugs. I forget a lot, but some things are going to stick with you. And I'm hearing things that make sense, that make sense. My brain is analytical, reasoning, and things have to make sense. And a lot of things with this case, it doesn't make any sense. And the prosecutor is going to have the duty, the charge to prove their case, to prove it, to show evidence, to have testimony, have exhibits, have witnesses, have expert testimony. And this is why the case is really kind of just taking over because everyday people like me and many, many others, this initiated me to get in front of this camera. I had already had many, many things that I could have discussed, but this case here was moving forward, and I'm saying, you know what? It's not right. You cannot literally put in the press all ways to taint a jury, putting evidence out there, testing it, seeing how people will respond, creating all these stories to trash, to bash a defendant that you can't tell him to speak. He can't say anything. He's the accused. Nothing he say is going to be assessed in a way right at this time. He will have to be exonerated, and he cannot have a double jeopardy charge to really speak from the heart of how he's feeling. His family would not even be advised to speak for him or on his behalf. They're probably getting death threats. They probably have to go in hiding because this case draws you in. You're looking at people that are doing ordinary things like going to college, living their life. Those pictures that they post, they look happy, they're having fun, they're enjoying themselves. One is graduating from college. Who would think they send their kids to college to then be unalive? No parent is imagining that. They've invested all this time with their kids. They love their kids. The dad was there changing the lives, trying to protect their child. Who's going to think that their child is going to be unalive, sleeping in their bed, behind a locked door, probably in their own house, and this happened to them? And every parent is thinking this could be my child. They can relate, they can understand. But on the flip side, also, we can't allow someone to be prosecuted, someone to be diminished, tarnished, targeted, and attacked when they haven't even been in trial. In the United States, he is proved to be before trial innocent. The trial is what demonstrates, it shows his guilt, the evidence, the testimony. When they can place him there, they can show he acquired this knife. They can have something in video, not just a car, but something more. Because the police did have to mistake. They sent out conflicting information. When the coroner came out, which I'm not sure what the heck was that, but she admitted that she failed to take the quadruple murder as a priority and get to that scene. There's a video of a press conference with the chief where they have one of the people in government laughing. And you're talking about a quadruple homicide. And these are fair, concerned, reasonable questions. They're reasonable. And when you get those jurors in, they're going to be just like me. They're going to be thinking, wondering. And I don't even know if it's appropriate for the case to even be in Idaho because so much has happened, so much has been said that this whole trial should not be moved to another area. I don't know how he could get a fair trial in the state of Idaho, how they have just attacked his everything from the way he looks, his mannerisms, to zoning in on him if he's just sitting there, just so much, you know. Let's try to keep the focus primarily on getting justice for those four students. That's what we're here for. That's what we want to talk about on this channel. And I believe there needs to be more work done on the prosecution side, whether that be Bryan Kohberger as the defendant or someone else or other. There needs to be more investigative work, and I feel we need to go back to the beginning, to the initial evidence, to the video, to the timeline. The timeline has changed so much. Questioning and interrogating and dealing with people that were checked off that list of possible suspects. Going back and talking to the unharmed again needs to happen. It needs to happen. There's too many things that are not clear. And that's a major problem if you're trying to get death penalty jurors that are going to agree unanimously, unanimously to have this person killed because of a conviction. We need to get it right. And I feel it would be good to go back to the beginning. Some of the initial things that happened in the case, I think it needs to be almost like a new look, a fresh look, almost as if you're looking at a cold case. Start over. I'm not saying you have to dump everything, but can we get some fresh eyes over here? Can we get the Idaho State Police, some experienced investigators? I'm not sure if the FBI would want to have a hand in the investigative part. I don't think they mind helping them with the lab work, maybe confirming some of the tips and things like that. But maybe the Idaho State Police can step in. Can there be a special prosecutor? Can the Idaho State Attorney step in and kind of step up to handle this case? Because there's so many concerns, there's so much reasonable doubt. It's not worth prosecuting Bryan Kohberger or anybody else at this time with the evidence that's known. It's just too much reasonable doubt. And if that person is the assailant, you do not want to have a not guilty or a hung jury. Are you going to try them again and again? Like, yeah, you got to get it right. You got to get it right. So, friends, 2+ hours later, my friends, uh, hang in there with me, y'all. Hang in there with me. I want y'all to hang in there. Let me know what you think. What are your ideas? How do you feel about what's going on? What has happened? It's been 7, almost 8 months into this, and it seems like we still don't have a lot of answers. We still don't know a lot of information. The alibi created more concerns, concerns about the prosecutor not providing what appears to be exculpatory evidence. Do you feel that the trial is being rushed? Do you feel that the prosecutor's defense will be prepared October 2nd? Do you agree with me that, push this back to after the new year? Not too much into it, late January, early February. Do you agree with me? So that both sides can be prepared, both sides can do a job well. How do you feel? Or do you think we should go for it October 2nd and hope for the best? Rush, rush, rush. I don't think either side, excuse me, I don't think either side is prepared. And they're still fighting through motions. I mean, there's supposed to be a motion to dismiss filed today, which I don't see that happening either. But I do feel that it would not hurt the prosecutor to try to figure out a way to tie up all of these loose ends. It's so many. It's not one or two things. I could probably tell you 20. I know I gave you at least 10. There's more than that. I just was, off the dome. I don't have any notes tonight, you guys. I'm literally just speaking from knowledge and, going over the case. And that's why I started with that article, just going back to the beginning from that January news clipping to kind of go over some of the things that were highlighted back then. And now you fast forward, we don't have answers. We still don't. We probably have more questions. And I just see too much reasonable doubt. I would not be confident in this case at all. Not in front of a jury, no. No. I would not. I would not move forward on this case if I was the prosecution. Maybe 2, 3, 4 months would help them. They need a lot of. They need a lot of help. That's too much reasonable doubt. And I'm not saying they don't have the right person. That's not my point. My point is you could have the right person, but you have to prove it. You could have the right person, but you're unable to prove it. And with all of the questions and concerns, it's enough reasonable doubt there that you're not going to get a conviction on this. No, I don't think so. So anyway, friends, thank you for checking out this video, hanging with me super late, other videos, and just thank you for hanging in there. And hopefully, I will have to do another phone thing like this for a while, unless something else pops up. But this case is it pulls you in, it pulls you right back. Okay, you're not going too far. Come on in here and talk about it again a little bit. So we'll see. But there's a lot of deadlines coming up, so I probably will be back fairly soon to talk some more about the Idaho Tour. Let's just keep the families uplifted. Let's keep them in our prayers. Let's keep them in our thoughts, and let's just hope that everything is on the right path for the right assailant so that they can obtain a conviction for the right assailant. And whether that's Bryan Kohberger or somebody else or others, that's what the goal is. The goal is to get justice for those 4 victims and their families. So thank you for checking out this video. Check out some of my other videos. And I have not forgot about the abduction case that the FBI gave information on. I just had to get back on Kohberger. So I'll try to get that out in the next couple of days. Yeah, maybe tomorrow if I have some time. We will see. Okay, so thanks for checking out the video. Have a beautiful night. Be safe, be savvy, be smart, be well, take care. And I will see you in the next video. Bye, my friends.